Right now, I am hanging out with my friends out in Lake Louise. And we are taking in all the sights and sounds before we leave Canada. And this is the view that we are looking at. I mean, if you've been to Lake Louise, it's pretty epic. But right now I'm with Kat and his wife. I'm with Kat and my best friend Curtis and his wife Crystal. What's cool is hopefully in the future we can do a little more collaborations with what Curtis is doing, which is D1D, Day One Dads. I will link that in the description if you're a dad or not a dad, but you're curious about what they're doing. They're doing some really cool stuff. We're basically just trying to get in as much time with our closest friends, all the things that Alberta and Calgary and Banff and where I live has to offer before I leave, because let's be honest, who knows when I'm going to be back, who knows what's going to happen. But yeah, we're just hanging out at Lake Louise, taking in some sights and sounds, but the lake is absolutely incredible today. So I'm going to run over, show you some of that. So the one thing is, if you've ever been to Lake Louise, it is absolutely jam-packed full of people. Vlogging can be a little bit challenging, but to be honest, nobody really cares. So here's the lake. I'll show you that.
Woo! I know. It's really cold.
That water is always so beautiful. I'm pretty much stunned every time I've seen it, and I've seen it basically my entire life. We're gonna go into Banff now, enjoy some of the restaurants out there, and this might be my last Banff trip for a little while. So we'll take you along.
It's like 4 p.m.
Everyone dig in. Everyone dig in. Everyone dig in. So we couldn't leave Canada without making one last pit stop to Banff, right?
There's a tea place right here.
And it's been a pretty beautiful day. We just had some pizza, and now I think
We need a coffee.
we're gonna have coffee and then heading home. So yeah, it's been a nice day exploring the last little bit that Alberta has to offer, and it's been awesome. Really just taking a little bit of time to appreciate
Beautiful country.
the beautiful country of Canada and all that I've ever known. But I'm super excited to head over there. Now, before we head over there, I'm gonna talk a little bit about our experience in finding a place. So we're gonna grab coffee, and then I will jump back on and we'll go through what it was like to find a home in Berlin, because it was a interesting adventure, to say the least.
And we're back. Now, as much as I love those iconic locations in Canada, like Lake Louise and Moraine Lake and Banff, sometimes it can be a lot. So now that we are 15 days away, as I had mentioned earlier, Katharina and I are trying to take in as many experiences and see as many friends before we go. Now, as a little update from the last vlog, we have now sold everything. And if you can tell, this place is an absolute disaster. So we are just trying to get through these next 15 days with pretty much nothing. But that's a good thing, because when the day comes, we literally just have to pack our 2 luggage cases and head off, and we're ready to go. Now, speaking of being ready and being home, what I quickly wanted to talk about is finding a place to live in Berlin. Now, finding a place in any city can be tricky, but in a very large 4 million person city, it becomes even more challenging. Now, when we first started looking, we made a mistake that I wanted to relay to anyone who's watching, is that, I mean, we should have known this, but it didn't occur to us right away. But what we did was we took what we were paying for rent here in Calgary, in Canada, which is 1,700 Canadian dollars, converted it to euros, which is approximately 1,100 euros, and tried to find an apartment that way. Now, in doing that, the options were super limited and I guess not what we were looking for. And then suddenly it clicked and I said, hey, let's just raise the budget to exactly what we were spending over here, 1,700 euros. And suddenly many other options opened up. So just as a quick tip, just take what you're spending here and you have to convert it, because as a Canadian, that 1,700 euros converts to 2,400 dollars Canadian. And that seems like a lot, but that's just the way it is. And once we start earning euros, it'll just be like that here. But unfortunately, that is going to be the bitter pill to swallow in the beginning. Now, if you aren't too familiar with Berlin, they actually have 12 boroughs. Where you want to live, there can be a lot of options. When we first started looking, we actually had an opportunity to rent a place that we thought was in our ideal borough, but it was actually on the edge of it. And in turn, we turned it down, which a lot of people were surprised by, because finding a place in Berlin can be very challenging. So when they heard that we had an opportunity to rent something before we even landed and then turn it down, they were kind of confused by that. But our thought process was that we wanted to settle into our ideal location and borough, explore that area before making a concrete decision. So what we ended up doing was finding an Airbnb and renting that for about 3 months. And what's good about that, and maybe not all Airbnbs are like this, but the person that owns this Airbnb is also an expat. So they are helping us out by giving us the option to use that as our address to register. Now, when you get to sort of any city, and especially Berlin, you have to register in the city that you're living in order to get any major government paperwork done. Now, for myself, why it was important is because I'm trying to apply for my permanent residency permit. And in order to do that, I have to be registered in the city that I'm going to be living in to get that appointment to apply for that. Now, I did have the option, because Katerina is German, we could have used her parents' home address to register, but then in turn, we would have to travel back to her hometown to get the paperwork done for my permanent residency. And since the appointments are really few and far between, my permanent residency appointment is all the way in November. So then we would have been in Berlin for all of September and October and most of November, and have to travel all the way back, which is about 3-4 hours away, which would have been super annoying for any government paperwork. So the gentleman who owns this Airbnb has been so kind to give us a form that says that I am living in his Airbnb and that I can register that as my official address, and therefore go to my appointment for my permanent residency permit and use that address. And if you want to know what that form is called when you're talking to your Airbnb host or landlord or whatever that might be, I will put the name up here and I will try my best to pronounce it. It is called a Wohnungsgeberbescheinigung. Something like that. Did I say that right? Wohnungsgeberbescheinigung. And I'll put that word on the screen. And it's hilarious because it's probably the longest German word that I've learned so far. And it's actually a big, long sentence. And what does it mean again?
If you translate it word by word, it means the form that is given to you for your apartment.
The form that is being given to you for your apartment. So essentially, basically stating that, yes, I have moved there, I am living there, I am not a tourist, and I can go and apply for other government documents. But I guess that's pretty much it. The journey of finding a place, I would say, hasn't been too challenging once we kind of let it click in our brain that we were spending 1,700 Canadian dollars here, and in turn, to get something that we want similar to what we have now, we have to spend the 1,700 euros, which makes sense. It just didn't click at the time because when we did the conversion in our head, $2,400 Canadian just seemed way more than our budget that we wanted to spend right now. But anyways, hope you enjoyed this video. It was just a fun video showing some of the things that we've experienced over the last little while. A little bit of information about our journey to finding a new place to live in Berlin. If you have any other questions, again, please reach out. I have an advantage because my lovely fiance can give me that information in German and then I can relay it back to everyone who's watching. But please subscribe if you haven't already. Like this video if you found it helpful. And we'll see you in episode 3, where we will be talking about all the things that we have to wrap up that you may not have thought about before moving to another country. Okay, bye.